lots and lots to tell, but do ask questions or disagree with me. I'm Jeroen Bartelse. I work at the largest Dutch insurance company as at the innovation department, and one of the things that we do is to look outside what's happening and how is it going to affect us. And this is one of the topics that has an interest to my department and my personally. So what are we going to do? Now we're going to do some, I'll skip this. A warning, because the only things I read are more or less about self-driving cars and drones. So I'm in some kind of filter bubble. And there's lots and lots and lots more happening that than I'm going to say right now. But at least this gives you the next few minutes some idea of what's going on. And do know that it's a whole lot more. So I'm quickly going to talk about UAV and UAM. Do I have this? Those abbreviations: UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, like the normal drones and things like that. And UAM is unmanned urban air mobility. So that means moving people around through the air. So you know more or less what direction this talk is going to go. One of the things that Airbus is stating, we need to go move people in the air because there's just not enough room on the floor, on the ground. So what happened pre-COVID inside the Netherlands and outside of the Netherlands? If you look at the Netherlands, here there's a map of the Netherlands. Anything where it's white, you are allowed to fly a drone. All the other zones, you are not allowed, or you need a permission. So it's not really allowed because most part of the Netherlands is some kind of flying landing spot to Schiphol, or it's a natural area. What you can do is you can fly a drone that's less than 25 kilos within the line of sight, which means it's 500 meters, not higher than 120 meters, not above buildings, and not above people. And if you are a professional drone flyer, you can do the same things, but then you need a license to do so. In Amsterdam, since 2018, you have the Amsterdam Drone Week, where they're starting to create a community around this topic, anything that is related to drones. And we are happy to be a partner of the Drone Week because we also have an interest. And the fun fact is that we thought, oh, it's extremely cool. We're going to talk to Boeing and Airbus and such companies. And these companies said, oh, an insurance company is joining the conversation. Now it's getting serious. So apparently we bring some seriousness to the table. And it's very interesting because all those companies are talking together because they say, we need to make the market in order to divide it. So because at the moment there's nothing and nothing is allowed. But drones, is it then, what's happening? Well, this is an interesting topic. Far away in Africa, it is already becoming common sense. As you see, this is an old picture because now it's the number is over 40,000. People are saved via drone. It's an American company called Zipline. They're transporting medicine and blood via drone. They shoot the drone, it drops, as you can see, a parachute, and then it flies back. With this drone, you can fly for 30 minutes. What would otherwise take hours to get to the same location by car. So this is already operational. So in Africa, they are way more advanced than us. So that's one extreme. Another extreme, it's not really good visible. This is if you are in a hurry, and it's about 2030, and you have lots of money, then you can get an Aston Martin flying volante. And then you can go through the sky to your meeting. So you see car companies are working on this. This is one extreme, but know that all other car companies are working on similar types of mobility. And if you want to have it more extreme, there are people that are looking at Formula 1 races via drone in the sky. And this drone that you can see can actually fly with someone in it. So, and it's there. So. Then I need to go quick. This is here, the map company. They're creating 3D maps because they say if you want to fly through the air, it's not you just need to know right and left. We also need to know if you go around the corner, how high are the buildings, where is the wind, are there trees, are there power lines, all those things. So the whole world, so the map companies are making 3D maps of the world in order for drones to fly autonomously. Then a quick link with the insurance company. This is not really very good visible, but in England, Direct Line, they chose the darkest road in the UK and thought, what can we do for good with drones? So they made drones the traffic lights, so people can drive safely to their homes. Of course, this is like only commercial. But the thing, what they did after this commercial, they had some drones left, and thought, what can we do with them? They gave them to their what's it called? People that rescue people on the sea, and they were very pleased. Yes, because they said, with this drone we can see what's on the other side of the wave, and if we are in our boat we cannot see it, so it helps to quickly find people. And the same is already going on in Australia via Westpac, which is a bank. So you see the financial industry does have an interest in drones. They are looking for sharks, and they can drop like life gear to people that are floating away. If you want to have your own drone delivery service, you can have an Israeli startup saying, please set up my drone delivery service. We did it in Reykjavik, where they transport food to the other side of a lake, which is 3 minutes by drone and 20 minutes by car, which is the difference between cold food and hot food. It's only small companies, startups? No, also Google is into the drone delivery service, and they're in Helsinki, so it's not that far away. They start in Australia, far away, but they already got to Helsinki, which is close. And they said that when we talk to them, that they talk a lot with the local inhabitants, because every village and implementation is different. For example, in Australia, they had one person that was really a fan of them, so they ordered a lot, and then the people that lived between this customer and the starting point started to complain because they had a drone over their house every day. So then they made the route different each time. In Helsinki, in the winters are very cold, so the house is very isolated, very thick glass. No one cares if there's a drone because no one hears it. So you see that if every regional part of the world has its own implications. So every rollout of this product is different. Then, of course, Amazon, they are already working on drones for a couple of years, and they keep on repeating that it's a couple of months that they can deliver via drone. And then if you're in a hurry, you can have your stuff delivered very fast. But this still might seem far away. Then this was, I think, in March. This was a company in Ireland, Manna. They said, we are going to do a pilot with fast food and ice cream per drone in Dublin. And why is it interesting? Because they said, we are going to do it with 30,000 clients. So a whole area of students. And they could order Thai food and stuff, and then your delivery time has gone down to 3 minutes within their region. But Dublin, so it's not that far away. Still, it's getting closer. Then another UPS is the first official drone line in the States, because they also want to deliver packages. The first thing that they do now is delivering blood to a hospital. In London, they did a test. If you can deliver from rooftop to rooftop, hospital to hospital, the transporting times are cut down by 90%. Or if you need an organ, for example, now they do it by ambulance, and then you have people in the ambulance in a traffic jam. So those people are not helping someone in need. So if you send those things via drone, it's much faster, and it saves up time for other people.
You wanted questions in between?
Yes.
Jeroen, so for all those who joined newly, there is also a chat function. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. There's a question on, is there any air traffic control already involved now that it is increasing? Although it is still a little bit, are those involved in taking care of drones not hitting each other?
Yes and no. So there are companies that do the same thing as the flights. What's called the
control room of the.
Yes, the flight control room.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a drone and you want to fly from A to B, which is not yet allowed, there are companies that because in certain countries like Switzerland it is allowed. You can register your flight and you get a flight plan. The drone downloads the flight plan and can fly. And what the EASA, which the European regulator is doing at this moment is for this year on their agenda is the combination of manned and unmanned traffic. And then, so this by the end of this year, hopefully people will say, yeah, we accept these rules, and then in 2021 or 2, they will be implemented.
Okay. Wow, that's fast.
So they are working on it, and the control. I will get back to it later. Why the air control room have lots of interest in this topic. Yes. This is another startup that has that says we can, if you want to transport from hospital to hospital, you need the drone infrastructure at the hospital. So this could be it. So you can send this drone safely. Things don't always work out well. This is the first flight of the Russian Post. So it's lots of people are very happy with their new drone, but not for long. So it does take some effort. So it doesn't always go right. Then what's also interesting, the whole totally other subject then now, because drones need to land somewhere. There's a startup that's buying rooftops in London, and in order to transform them in drone landing spots. And rumor has that Amazon is also looking at rooftops in Amsterdam in order to buy. And then why do we care? Hey, we are an insurer. We insure buildings. If someone is going to land a drone on top of a building, that might be of interest because maybe you need to adapt to the construction or the entrance or the security. There's lots of reasons why suddenly this becomes interesting. But this is also very interesting because these guys do it for like small drones and big drones. Then another company from Germany, this one is a volocopter that makes like drones that can transport people around. This is an actual picture, so it flew last year in Singapore in order to make sure to demonstrate that it could work. And as you can see, Mercedes is 30% share owner of of this company, and Geely, which is also investor in Mercedes, is also an investor in this company, because Mercedes has this worry: what suppose such a device is going to cost 200,000 euros, and if you are a very successful German businessman, are you then going to buy Mercedes S-Class and stand in the traffic jams, or are you going to fly around above the traffic jams? So they have a bit of a worry, so they invested in this company. And also this company needs to land somewhere, so they've partnered with Skyports, the previous one, in order to create voloports where those can land. And this was a demo that they created in Singapore. So it's going fast, and they both have been asked by Singapore to investigate in good landing spots because they want to start a drone service in the next 2 years. Then this is another German company that's creating like a flying eVTOL. It's called. It's electrical and vertical landing and takeoff. This is a thing that you can take off from your garden, and it has enough power to fly you to London. So then this can also change the way how people are traveling. So they got funding this week or last week, lots of funding to continue their project. Then Porsche and Boeing are working together, also on a drone. And Audi is working, and BMW and Hyundai, and so all car companies. Hyundai says we are going to work with Uber because Uber is going into the air. Then of course Boeing and Airbus themselves are also looking at how can we transport people through the air, for smaller for smaller number of people. Why this is also interesting, because this air traffic control point, this is the guy that started the Google car, and now makes these planes that can fly themselves, and can land vertically, so you don't need a runway anymore. He says we have self-flying cars before we have self-driving cars, because there's two things that make life difficult for self-driving cars. One is cyclists, the other is pedestrians, and they don't exist up in the air. So you go from rooftop to rooftop. You say I want to fly from here to here. You get your flight plan, and you can fly, and it can be done autonomously. They are looking at ways to fly people from San Francisco to what's called the other side of the Bay Area over the water, so that if they can get some kind of permit there to fly people around. But then this really is not going to take 5 years. And then,
oh, sorry. Shall we do one question in between?
Yes.
Yes. There's a question about if there is already a market for vertical mobile ports, vertiports it's called, I think, like the one you showed in front of the hospital, but mobile ones on trucks and boats, because we have a few two little rooftops for parking arrivals and departures. Do you understand?
There are lots of rooftops. If you look in, for example, in the Zuidas in Amsterdam, they have quite some rooftops. So people can make independent infrastructure, but there's also like voices to say we need some kind of general thing, but because we don't want to have one vertiport for Boeing, another one for Airbus, another one for Uber. So it should be some kind of mixture, just like an airport. And people are looking, and also Amsterdam, I think, is looking how can we integrate this in the city. But exactly how, everything needs to be thought out. Where are they going to fly? Are they going to fly next to each other, above each other? Are they going to fly above a highway, or certainly not above a highway? What happens if you live up in a skyscraper and you think you have privacy, and suddenly you have all those things in front of your window? So all those things, those practicalities, still need to be thought out. But that makes it also very interesting times these times.
Yeah, I know there is a movement in Amsterdam to make policy on, like you have taxi stand places, also dedicated places where drones can take off and land. There was another question about when will the Dutch army be using drones? Well, I know for a fact they are using drones for all kinds of applications, even underwater drones. That were
very, very small drones. Yeah.
Very small drones. And I think there's a lot of information on that on the internet. And I have someone sharing here. Have you looked into the works from Dylan? Drones are doing in agriculture, such as aerobotics from South Africa. They do interesting work in using drones and machine learning to predict crop yield. This is a big win for agriculture insurance companies to better insure farms.
Yeah, we also look at if we can do this. We can use drones as an insurer, and we also use drones for damage inspections. Right? So if there is, and just like the fire department is using drones, if there's a large fire, to get a view from above. It's allowed in some certain Twente areas.
Yeah. So
This is, I'll go quickly back to this story. This is our office because we need to convince my colleagues as well that things are going fast. So I was in the lucky position that I could actually borrow a drone that can actually fly. So we put it in our office. And all my colleagues said, it's not going so fast. We can say, okay, now you can get in. What, apart from yourself, is not going fast? So there was a kind of rude awakening for them. So because the world is moving a lot faster outside of our office than inside. Then, so all these things that were happening before COVID, and then during COVID, certain things went a bit faster. Ehang, is a Chinese drone manufacturer. They have drones that can fly autonomously. They were used as ambulances, so they could fly in medication to Wuhan from a distance. The Mana guys realized that delivering fast foods wasn't perhaps the best option this time, so they changed it to medical deliveries. So they are delivering medicine in Ireland. Another one, Skyports again, is delivering medication to hospitals in Scotland. You see that 10 miles with a drone, it's 50 minutes. With a car, it's because you need to cross water. It's a 2-hour drive or something. Google is the Google Wing is delivering books to children that cannot go to the library because the library is closed, so they can prepare for the next study year. Another one, again, Ehang, they get approval from Norway and Spain. In Norway, they say you're allowed to fly with this thing to oil rigs, because now they do it with a helicopter, and doing it like this. First, it's electrical, so it's better for the environment, and it's faster. So they do it there, yeah. And if it crashes in the sea, so it's not so impactful as it crashes on land. And Spain, Sevilla, says we want to integrate this type of mobility in the whole mobility of the city. So they're looking at how are we going to move people through the air in Sevilla. And of course, Zipline, after being operational for many years in Africa, is now certainly allowed to also fly around in the United States to deliver medication due to COVID. Then what is then coming? So last few slides in this story. There are going to be new rules. They should have been implemented in last June, but due to COVID, it has been postponed to the end of the year, to December 30th, so that the UK can still join. You can now it's totally irrelevant if you are a consumer or a professional drone user, what you're going to do with the drone, that defines the regulations. So if you're not going to fly above 120 meters and within 500 meters, nothing has changed. But now, if you want to fly above people or above buildings or higher or further than 500 meters, or you want to deliver a package, it is allowed. If you have your, you need to ask for a permit, but if you get your permit, you can do those things. So suddenly, lots and lots and lots of things are possible. So if you want to deliver something, a package with your drone, 4 kilometers away, you need to ask for permission. Yeah, maybe they don't give it because they don't trust you, but if you get it, you can do it. And then, so then lots and lots of things are potentially going to change. 2021, next year, Dubai will start operating its drone taxi service.
Drone taxis.
Really?
I'm sorry?
Us?
Yeah, so they are flying still with pilots, because they are in Dubai. They have some kind of worry that first they want to make sure that you cannot hijack a drone and fly into a building. But the next step is that you can just fly to the airport autonomously. You say, I'm in a hurry, get me a drone taxi. And then, and because they are starting in 2021, it means that they are already flying around testing. So since last year. So they are operational. What is it? In Singapore, they want to be operational 1 year later. Starting the operations. So the people are looking now at spots to land.
Sorry, Jeroen. Someone hasn't muted their phone, their microphone. Can you please all mute your microphone? Thank you. Go ahead, Jeroen.
Yeah, so they also Volocopter has a movie that in which you can see, hey, I want to travel to this hotel, for example, and it's just like ordering a taxi, and then your taxi comes flying. Then 2023, this is Uber. Uber says we are going to start this company. It's called Uber Air. So you can also see they want to. How fast they want to go somewhere. And now I get back to this air traffic control, guys, because Uber says they're going to start in Los Angeles and Dallas and Melbourne with this operation, and they say they want to grow to 50,000 drone flights a day per city. And if you look now at the United States, during one day you have 50,000 airplane flights all over the USA. So those guys doing the air traffic control are very worried because if you can arrange 50,000 drone flights a day in a city, and you do this in several cities, you can say, oh, those couple of planes, we can arrange those planes as well, because that's not difficult anymore. And so they have plans to start in 2023. And if I then go back to my company and I say, hey, suppose I want to have something in 2023, when do I need to start? And then my colleagues get very worried because with our speed, we needed to start yesterday probably. And then once more to finalize this, in 2024, Paris is also one of the airport of Paris is one of the investors in the Voloports that creates those skyports that creates the Voloports. And they say in 2024 we have the Olympic Games in Paris, and we would like to transport our guests from the airport to the city because it's a cool thing to do. So they are adapting probably the airport in order to do so, and they need to land somewhere in the city. And in between 2022, there's the Floriade in the Netherlands. So we already said, if you want to have some kind of interesting way to move people around from Amsterdam to Almere over water, which is less scary than land, there might be some kind of cool suggestion. But nothing official yet, so one never knows. In short, the drones do exist, but you're not really allowed to do a lot with them. But apart, outside of the Netherlands, lots of things are happening. It really seems, the possibilities seem endless. It really is amazing because there's a whole lot more happening than what I just said. The COVID seems to have positive impact on the drone acceptance because people are pleased with their drones, at least as long as they deliver medicine or books. But it starts the whole acceptance, because if you look at Dutch cities, no one really likes helicopters because they make lots of noise, unless they're yellow, and then they're trauma helicopters, then it's accepted. These things seem to be okay. And this German Volocopter one that I showed, they say with their design, you don't hear it if it's 100 meters up in the air. And then maybe that helps a lot with acceptance as well. There will be new drone rules, regulations, active. It's all over Europe. Swiss has already implemented them, but the rest of the European countries will implement those rules at the end of this year. And they're looking at some kind of creating a single European sky, also with the regulations. So also with the implementation of the urban air mobility and the unmanned and manned mobility. Nearly all car manufacturers are looking at ways to move people around in the sky. And like Singapore said, urban air mobility is the only way they can increase the amount of people that they can move, because anything on the ground, on ground level, is full. So they need to go to move it up in the air. And yeah, as of 2022-21, this is actually going to happen outside of the Netherlands. So we can think, oh, it's far away. It's not that far away, because if you are operational by then, you're already testing today.
Yeah.
So that was my story, very fast.
Thank you so much. And for the latecomers, I forgot to inform Jeroen that the presentation had to be in English. So that's why some of the sheets are in Dutch. I'm really happy that you could do the talk in English last minute. I have some questions, and maybe it's nice if I just ask the people to unmute, to ask them themselves, to have a little bit of conversation about it. Maarten, you were the first. How can a drone, well, ask your question yourself.
Yeah, sorry, I had to ask permission to mute. Yeah, I was wondering, since like something like passengers being transported in an autonomous vehicle through the sky, that will probably be really hard to insure, because you have no idea, like there's so many things that can go wrong that we can't really predict. Or is there like something you're actively thinking about, like how will you be able to insure like a drone with passengers, or even like a drone doing deliveries? Thank you for
Yes,
the
yeah,
presentation,
certainly.
by the way, really interesting.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, we're certainly thinking about it, but then we need to have some kind of data in order to understand the risk. So then I think I see it as my job to get data somehow. So we talk to lots of companies if you can see it, but it is very scary because you don't really know. And what we are really good at as an insurance company is spreading risk. So, so if I say I want to insure this first drone with someone inside, then yeah, things can go wrong or go well. But if it doesn't really matter what kind of premium we ask, because if it crashes, someone in my company needs to pay out maybe if worst case $1 million. So someone needs to have some kind of entrepreneurial spirit and should be willing to take this risk. So but we say, but with this first thing we can test. Oh, would you rather wait and then until someone says I have 30, can you insure 30, and we have no idea what we are going to do. So these are the discussions that we are having.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Barend, you also had a question about digital forensics.
Yeah, I get one little question. Do you also investigate drones on digital forensic evidence?
And then you mean like loggings to collect data?
Yeah, loggings from flight data or other things.
Not at the moment, because at the moment anyone can buy a drone and fly. But with the new regulations, if you buy a drone, it has a transponder, so it's sending out signal who's it from and where it's flying. And then if something happens, at least it's known who most possibly who the owner is. But if you want to do something bad, you just create your own drone and then fly around with it probably. And then still someone, but there's also lots of companies that work in solutions to defend yourself against rogue drones. So I didn't go into this impact, but in this subject, but the NASA and Thales are working on warning signs and So you know that there's some kind of unidentified drone flying towards like a football stadium or something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Then I have a question of Sudha Jante. Can you please unmute yourself? Because I happen to know that you're an autonomous vehicle expert in Americans at Stanford University. So maybe you can ask your question. And what I also wanted to ask you, Sudha, Jeroen, you made a comment that people are saying that probably we will first have urban air mobility, transporting people through the air long before we will have the autonomous vehicles driving around. So I was wondering, Sudha, if you could comment on that as well.
Sure. So this was a very wonderful presentation, because I liked how succinct it was that the speaker gave a summary on what is happening in various countries. I mean, it was truly global, so I appreciated that. I focus specifically on the autonomous vehicle and how it connects to smart cities and how it's going to influence general mobility and from connected and autonomous vehicles. So it's not just that we are going to get to a self-driving car, but we're going to get autonomy in various forms and how it's going to impact retail and any other industry using the data from the car. So that's kind of my primary focus. So my question is, I heard from various companies, Singapore, Dubai, Uber's dreams of equivalent to replacement of flights with that many number of proposed vehicles in the air. All of it is something new, right? So it's like we're going to create a whole new drone or whole new airship of some kind, and when we are going to provide mobility. So my question is, what are OEMs doing? I heard a mention slightly of OEMs also working in that space, because it is one thing to for a startup to say we're going to build this, or somebody to build this ground up. But once the enough number of people come in, there is going to be regulation. There is going to be this traffic that is going to be shifted to the skies. And so it's not going to be that it's going to take off exponentially without any friction in its path, because we're just switching the friction from the ground to the air. So initially it is easier to take off. I mean, in terms of technology, it's more complex to manage to build the autonomy in the sky, but it's clean today. So so one comment is, I see that the transition could happen, but I think the scale of it is going to be hard. So I want to know what the OEMs or the car makers are doing.
The traditional car makers.
Yeah.
They're on one hand partnering, like Audi is partnering with Airbus, Porsche partnering with drones, Mercedes invested in this startup. That's the German ones. Then the Korean ones have, or even they created their own divisions. So Hyundai is partnering with creating those things like planes for Uber. So they are all, most BMW has created a hydrogen urban air mobility vehicle, and so yeah, it was just an experiment, but it is there. So lots of them are looking at ways to move people around in the air. And
So
it's not yet having a full scale at the moment, but if it starts, and the funny thing is that these developments start in lesser democratic countries apparently, also like China. If it's starting in China, this week was in the news that EHang, this company, flew around people on sightseeing tours. So it's getting there, and at the moment, but it also takes a long time for those urban air mobility vehicles to get the same kind of certification as an airport, of an airplane. So that takes about 7 to 8 years or so. But the first ones will be ready in 1 or 2 years. with certification from the air traffic control and other companies.
And authorities. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Couple years seems ambitious and very optimistic, but it sounds really good. So one question I have is in the autonomous
if you start now,
ground
it takes 7 years.
I'm seeing a shift that it started out with self-driving cars about transporting people, but where the business is picking up is more in cargo.
In cargo or what? Sorry.
Cargo.
Cargo. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Suda. And thank you very much, Jeroen. On the sheet, the last sheet he showed, is also his Twitter account. And if you want to keep up to date in this field, just follow him on Twitter, because you get your daily dose of news and trends.
Autonomous.
Yeah, in this field. Shall we have a little break for 5 minutes?